Hi everybody, what's up? On today's chapter for the Aware Artist, we're gonna explore the concept of the self-healing through the reconnection and the finding of our authenticity. So let's dive right in. Lately, I've been listening a lot of contents from this incredible mind and soul, Dr. Gabor Maté. If you haven't heard of him, just go and check him out. He's an author, physician, and he writes and talks a lot about the trauma and how the trauma is built and builds our personality, how the coping mechanism with something that happens, especially when we are kids, then determines the rest of our lives, and how we can break this pattern. We can basically break free from this prison by finding our own authenticity. And in my opinion, this is crucial for artists because even though we don't think about that in the first place when we start making music, because we confuse the what with the why. We're getting to that later. In the end, we are trying to heal ourselves, and music is a very powerful tool to do that. So let's break it down. At the beginning of our life, we all basically tend to connect with two basic needs: the need for attachment and the need, or actually the drive, to be authentic. So a baby, a newborn baby, you can think of him like trying to reach out for especially the parents in order to bond with them, to create attachment, and the baby is 100% authentic. So he never wonders, or he never cares about, okay, am I gonna poo my pants right now? Am I gonna disturb my parents if I'm crying out loud in the middle of the night? No, the baby is just simply 100% connected with his or her needs, and it just simply is whatever his nature is telling him to be in that moment. And the attachment is, of course, the other part is that by using the very few tools that he has in the first months and years of his life, by like crying or cooing or something like that, he's trying to build attachment. And that's why it's so important for us to be looked at, to be listened at, to be recognized by our parents, because in the first 3 years of our lives, we build our cognitive maps, and that basically teaches us everything that we need to learn, or actually everything that we think that we need to learn for the rest of our lives, and will determine our basic behaviors. So how does the trauma and how does a first turn of events happen? After a few years, we start to realize that in order to save and to preserve the attachment, we have to sacrifice our own authenticity. It means that whenever we want to do something, we want to say something, we want to be something, we understand that if we are pursuing that way, we might be disappointing our parents, and we don't want to do that, because there's already a strong attachment, there's a bond, there's love, and we're starting to understand that we can't, and we feel that we can't live without them. When we hear the word trauma, we don't have to think about the most traumatic things. There are different levels, different scales for trauma, but very little things can be traumatic. Like, I want to do basketball, and my parents signed me for, football, soccer, whatever. So these little things can break our need for authenticity, but we maybe even struggling, but then in the end, we tend to shape ourselves to agree with somebody else's decision, because we can't and we don't want to break attachment. So for me, when I first heard of that, makes total sense, and I think that anybody can relate with this concept. And if anybody can relate with this concept, then it means that we're all traumatized people. And at the first glimpse, that made me relax, actually. I don't know if that happens for you too, but if we're all traumatized, it means that we're in good company. I start by taking a step back and not feeling that my pain, my wounds, it's just something that happens to me, that I'm alone in this life, that everybody is doing well but me, because I'm suffering. So it's like a context that's telling me a big truth. It's okay to feel like that, because you, like anybody else, sacrifice your own authenticity in order to belong, in order to feel attached. This whole concept drove my last weeks. It gave even more power to my why, which is coming from the awareness that music is actually not our why. That's our tool to heal ourselves, because ultimately, in my opinion, in the depth of it, we're making music to heal, because we're making music trying to reconnect and try to be ourselves, trying to be authentic. And that is very crucial to me, because let's think it over. In the modern society where we have amazing tools for making music all the time, you don't have to have fancy equipment. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get your music done and out. We feel, can we say it, sadder than ever. We feel like something is not working, and we tend to, oh, back in the day it was better. No, it was not, guys. If we just put it in numbers, right now it is estimated that about 1 million people is making a good living out of music. The super multimillionaires are about less than 100 in music, I'm talking about, but about 1 million people is making a living out of music, like me and like, a lot of other people. So there is no absolute chance that back in the day, at the given moment, like the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, there were 1 million people making a living out of music. So it wasn't better back in the day. Some aspects were better. Of course, it's not something on and off, black and white. There are always some, different shades of a color. But generally speaking, when we come of, okay, I have an idea, I want to make music, can I do it today? It is the best era ever. However, we feel that this is not that, good, and something is off. Because we can make music, we forgot to ask ourselves why we're making music in the first place. And by focusing so much on making it, on getting heard, we're not even paying attention on what we're saying, on how we're vibrating when we're making music. And again, we're sacrificing authenticity in order to reach attachment. Because think about it, what is it social validation? What is it views and streams and followers and something? It's like a construct. It's like to sublimate again the concept of I'm afraid of being myself, and so I don't want to lose the appreciation of others. That's a big call for anybody, for us who are making music, because are we really exploiting this powerful tool, which is music, to go and find ourselves rather than being accepted? One of my favorite Rick Rubin's quotes is that audience comes last. So that doesn't mean that I have to disrespect audience. Of course, we are making music, so we need fans and listeners and stuff like that. But first of all, the act of creation is an act of rebellion. So whenever I'm creating by following or by projecting what I think that the people will like, again, I'm not being myself. If we ask ourselves, like out of 100 people, are you being authentic when you write and make music? I guess that everybody says, yeah, I am. But then, so the difficult part for me is recognizing when I'm not being authentic to myself, because I'm trying to pursue the shortcut mentality, in which if something was accepted by this kind of genre, this kind of lyrics, this kind of sound, so if I'm making it, copying it, or making something similar, I will be accepted. Let's wind it back for a while. If we know that as long as we are sacrificing ourselves and our authenticity, we're feeling bad in favor of attachment, how can we be ourselves? How can we set the path towards authenticity, give ourselves the permission to be that? It is okay to be afraid of something that we don't know. So if we don't know who we are, what we want, who we are in music, what kind of wounds we have, of course, we're afraid, because whatever we don't know is making us afraid. So the first step is that if something frightens you, that's a hint. I'm not saying that this is the way, because you don't have to live in fear also, but the point is that I don't remember whose quote is that, but somebody said if something is not frightening you enough, it means that it's not important. Being authentic is the biggest act of rebellion, not just as of today, because you are the only one, the only version of whatever you are in this very planet. So when you are being true to yourself, That's the best way to stand out. And standing out, guys, that doesn't mean that I'm being honest, I'm being authentic right now, and suddenly the world is like turning my way, and my God, I just discovered a star. No, that doesn't happen that way, and it might not even happen ever in that sense. We have to accept and we have to choose this pathway. Now, for me, what makes that easy is that by knowing, because Dr. Maté explains that very beautifully, the coping mechanisms that we put up with by simply adjusting and replacing the authenticity with need of attachment. In the first place, they help us cope with whatever the trauma or the sense of discomfort is, but then they make us sick. So by not being authentic, you are ending up sick. That's for me is more than enough to get myself working on my authenticity, because by not doing it, I'm sure that I'm getting ill. And by getting ill, that doesn't mean that everybody experiences the same kind of illness, which is in the worst cases like tumors, or mental issues. We have been observing a huge increase of the chronic diseases, autoimmune system diseases. So this kind of diseases that we're trying to, and we're tending to normalize in the society. I was astonished by hearing from Dr. Maté that 70% of the population in the US is on medication. And medication can be for headaches, can be for anxiety, can be for stress. So guys, that's a lot. But most of all, it's the concept that everybody normalized that that's life. It doesn't even cross their minds that there can be an existence that's more peaceful and more centered towards yourself and towards the feeling of wholesome. So for me, as music artists, we have this incredible power of, again, careful. Music is not telling who we are. I mean, it's not the final destination. Playing the piano is not my final destination. Playing the piano is the lens, the glasses, the tool that I can use, or singing or playing guitar or making music, whatever. But music is just like a channel, is a tool. It's nothing more than a conduit for getting to the real self. I can share with you my experience because I have been making music since I was 8. I couldn't call myself an artist ever since I got to be like 26, 27, because I felt that something was off, and it was not because I wasn't making music. I was making tours, working with famous people and worldwide icons of the music. So I also had validation from my idols because they knew that I existed, even for a while I was on tour with them or working with them in studio, whatever. But then I felt that something was off. Then on the other hand, when you start to understand that there's much more to discover about yourself than just simply making music, then you start to treat music as a magnifier. It's like a speaker, but a speaker that right now you're not using passively, but you're using actively by pursuing a why, a vision, and you're developing a vision. I could be talking hours about that because it gets me so passionate. And why it gets me so passionate? Because that's the point. We don't have to endure a life of suffering, of normalizing the suffering. I mean, pain and suffering is part of the life. We can't escape that. And by trying to escape that, we are getting even more ill because suffering and bad things happen in life. It's something that is meant to be. But on the other hand, suffering is a way to learn things. So by making more music and not feeling right, that means that the problem is you're not using that skill, that tool, that channel in the proper way. But just know that making music can help you heal. And by realizing, by accepting that in the first place, you, like anybody else, like me, like billions on earth, have sacrificed the authenticity in favor of attachment, that's, in my opinion, is a breakthrough, because now you have the tools. You have perhaps a sparkle of awareness for asking yourself, am I still pursuing social validation? Am I still writing music? I'm talking about when you are alone in your room, in your studio, when you are thinking of a lyrics, of a melody, of a production structure, are you thinking for being accepted? Are you making it because you think that this is the trend, this is what people like, this is, oh my God, this sound that is gonna be so impactful for people's lives? Because if that's the way, I'm not saying that this is inherently wrong as a concept, but again, you're sacrificing authenticity for attachment. So the two takeaway messages for me today: just know that you have lost your authenticity, just like anybody else. So you're in good company. It's not a tragedy. It's something that can be recovered. And it is great to make music, to find ourselves. The second takeaway is that try to spot if whenever you're making music in the very first stages of the creation, if you're making music because you are actually an open channel of who you are, what you're thinking, your idea, your vision that you have in that very moment, or if you are restraining yourselves, again, and you are limiting in favor of a result that it suffers boundaries. I'm giving you a very small example before closing this. Music, like 300-400 years ago, was in the format of operas. So right now, the format of a barely 3-minute song, and I'm talking to be played on radio or to get good placements on the playlist, on Spotify playlists, like 3-minute song is like a modern format of a song. So what happens if by expressing what you're feeling, the kind of journey that you're making in that moment, your mind and your soul, you got a song of 7, 8, 12 minutes. Who says that thing is not good enough, that can't be worked? Because today the attention span is about less than 40 seconds, and social media is about 4 seconds. That's an example of when you're self-limiting because of an outer response. You have a logic response. I mean, you know that the attention span today is a problem, and so you're saying, okay, that's not worth it. That's where they're sacrificing authenticity for attachment, because perhaps in that very moment, being authentic for you is like telling a sound story. And a sound story, for me, can't last 3 minutes. That's not a story. That's like an ad. It's a jingle. Okay, you got it? So I hope that this topic interested you, because for me it's infinite. Just let me know in the comments if you kind of resonate with this, and even if you aren't, just tell me what your opinion is. So guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this chat as usual, and I'll see you very soon on the next chapter. Bye bye.